Hello, YouTube. My name is Eddie Cho. I'm going to be speaking about the East China Sea today. Now, I'm not going to go off of all the political BS reasons. I'm going to be explaining to you the scientific principles behind it. Though I'll be explaining a little bit about the social and the historical reasons behind it. Now, basically what's happening is that Japan and China, as well as just about every other Eastern nation out there, the only reason why I say Japan and China is because they're the only two with an actual full fighting naval capacity. So what's happening behind this is basically they're fighting over five very small islands which are not very inhabitable. The reason why they both want these islands is for three main reasons. It's a very well-trafficked area, and so if you're going anywhere between Hong Kong and Tokyo, you have to fly through here, or you have to have ships go through here. And so this is a very good economical reason. The next point of it is that there's a lot of oil and natural gases there. And they both want these for very, very good reasons. I mean, obviously, it's what we use to fertilize our crops, it's what we use to run our generators. We basically use it for any and all reasons. The last reason is really for a nationalistic reason. It's that Japan and China are both starting to become more and more nationalistic. Now, this isn't a bad thing, it's just, it can be quite complicated sometimes. And what I'll be explaining are two main scientific principles of why the dispute is happening. First is how the oil is formed, and secondly, it's what's happening to have all these different nations say that, hey, I own this, and the reason why that's such highly disputed. Now, to explain a little bit more, I have a globe with me. It's kind of an old globe, but if you can see it here, it says Union of Soviet Russia Republic. Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, very much older than Russia. Um, and so, right here, just above Taiwan, what's happening is that that's where these five islands are. Sorry about that. Kind of shine left and right, confused its mood. So what's happening there is that these five islands are collecting a lot of oil. Now, what happens with the oil, why it's collecting, is that oil happens because of through natural processes. It's a biological process. So first off, what happens is that we have photoplankton, which are absorbing all the energy from the sun, which are being eaten by the zooplankton, and they're starting to get bigger and bigger because they're eating more and more and more. And so we got phytoplankton, zooplankton. The difference between these is that phytoplankton is basically plant plankton. What a plankton is, it's technically Latin for wanderer. Now, what's more than that is that a plankton is any type of sea creature that cannot control how it swims. So we got the phytoplankton, we got the zooplankton, then we got the nekton. What the nekton are is any type of animal in this being in the ocean that can swim. And so these get larger and larger and larger, and they start to eat more and more and more. So eventually what ends up happening is that we get up to the alpha predator, which is at the very, very top of this economical chain, or pyramid rather. And these beings, two commonly known ones would be the great white shark and the killer whale, or rather correctly, the orca. So what's happening there is that all of these things, eventually they die, and sometimes they're eaten, sometimes they're not. And so their bodies start falling down, 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 farther off into the bottom of the ocean. Along the way, they're eaten by other nasty little critters. The ocean's a very, very scary place, especially once you go below the point where there's light. Now, what's happening once it reaches the bottom is that it all basically just sits there, and it kind of just accumulates. Now, places like the Mariana Trench, or just basically wherever there's just long, flat areas of just nothing, all this biomass just gets scattered. Now, what's happening around these islands is that because they are islands, there's actually stuff growing there, much more like coral and actual plants, that actually have stable biomasses that are living. And so when everything that's living there dies, it just kind of goes around. What this means is that there's more than just in the random blue ocean. So from there, what's happening is that all of this biomass accumulates there, kind of just sits there. And over a very, very, very long time, all of this biomass that's basically just sitting there turns into what we call oil, natural gas, and coal. through different processes. And so what's happening from there is that basically a species like us comes around that figures out, hey, we can use this for other stuff. We can use this to fertilize our plants, which yes, we're doing. We can use this to generate, use for our generators. We use this for much, much more other things. And right now we're in the age of oil. And so what happens? Oh, that's right, we don't know how to share our toys. And so Japan and China are starting to fight over these two things. Fight over these three things, rather. The natural gas, the coal, and the oil that's at the bottom of here. And so, basically, that's what ended up happening on that end. Now, the reason why they all think it's their territory, and the reason why it's so much discriminated is because around these islands is a 200-mile economical exclusion zone. This is around any type of landmass. Now, the originality of these economic exclusion zones was how far you could shoot a cannon, but because we can have rockets that can go to the moon, it's not exactly going to make a lot of sense, economically speaking, to be like, hey, I can know whatever I can shoot to. No, bad idea. And so what we've basically ended up happening is that we've decided that we're going to, globally, came together, we're like, hey, yes, 200 miles. Good idea? Good idea. Okay. So what's happening from here is basically whoever owns these islands gets 200 miles of fishing, of oil rigging, and of telling people where to go when they want to trade if they're going through the area. That's very, very useful. So what happens from there? Now I'll get to why the geological reasons why they think they own these. Now, what China's basically saying is that they think that Taiwan owns it. The reason why they're saying this is because whatever Taiwan claims that they own, China claims that they own Taiwan, and thus China by proxy owns whatever the thing is that they're saying that they own. Now, Japan's saying the same thing with Okinawa, or originally the Ryukyu Islands. And so what's basically happening there is they're just going, I want this! And for the last couple of decades, Japan has been administering this area. However, in this last year, they finally purchased from a wealthy private businessman these islands. And this has caused much, much trouble. And it's caused much more interference amongst with China. So what's basically happening is that Japan is saying that these islands are connected to the Ryukyu Islands. China is saying that it's connected through an underwater land bridge to Taiwan, and these are only the two main contenders. You've got South Korea who's saying that there's a land bridge coming down from the south of Korea that connects to it, and then you've also got people from the Philippines saying the same thing. There's even countries far enough away from it where I don't even understand why they're saying they own it, such as Thailand, India, and just about every other Eastern nation. Now, this could cause great, great problems, and hopefully we figure out how to share our toys before we start World War III. Now, my next video I'll be going over a little bit more about Hawaii, where I'm from, and I'll probably be going over the economical reasons of why we should go into multiple electrical companies, which would just be an amazing thing to happen for these islands, and potentially for the rest of the world once they realize how much green energy we can harvest here. And hopefully that'll stop the whole thing in China and Japan. Who knows? But, again, I'm Eddie Cho. I hope you have a good day, and I hope you're a little bit more informed now.